We'll have public comment now, and here is from the board book, 206, Board Recognition of Speakers at the Board Meeting. Any individual may be recognized by the board chairperson as a speaker during the public comment section of the board meeting. All comments by any individual or group of individuals will be limited to 3 minutes unless previously agreed upon in writing by the board chairperson. Members will not speak nor interrupt nor respond during the public comment section of a board meeting. All appropriate responses will be made then or at a later time as determined appropriate by the chairperson. Thank you. Do we have anyone that would like to make a public comment?
Good evening. I'm Duane Bailey. I'm a retired judge here in Madison County, Illinois. And on behalf of Ronald Reagan, let me say I wish you would stop wasting taxpayer money. You might recall at one of the State of the Union addresses, he looked at the tone that was federal regulations and said, this is ridiculous. So is this. This is unnecessary. You're doing micromanagement. Mr. Russ, at the last board meeting, you said something that I thought I didn't hear, but I did hear it. You said the Scott Bibb Center was made for blacks. I thought, no, you didn't say that. And then you said, gee, black enrollment is down. And when people corrected you, you acted like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, let me explain something to you, Mr. Russ. Having been a judge 8 years and a prosecutor for over 20, I knew a young white male that needed help. He was lost, he was confused, he didn't know what to do. I asked him to go to the Scott Bibb Center. In fact, I called Valerie Harris to make sure he was there. He's still here to this day. He takes 2 buses to get there. Mr. Russ, start visiting places before you talk about them. As to each and every one of you new board members, I didn't make judgment about you until tonight, but I have now heard enough to realize you don't know Robert's Rules of Order, you obviously are violating the Open Meetings Act, and as a result, I'm really concerned about what you're going to do tonight. So concerned that I decided to wear this, that I support Dale Chapman. Ordinarily, I don't make positions, but tonight I do. So, Mr. Attorney, I'm glad they finally hired someone. I would hope that you would sit down with each board member, not just the new ones, and discuss with them the Open Meetings Act and what it means. And may God bless this institution.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Rast Thomas, former professor here at Lewis and Clark Community College, retired in 2002. I'm also vice president of the Coalition Concerning Citizens in the Alton area and president of the Lewis and Clark Community Association. I represent this coalition this evening. I sincerely believe that it would be a terrible mistake not to renew Dr. Chapman's contract. I was a faculty member here for almost 30 years, and during that time I was vice president of the Faculty Association for 6 years, president for 7 years, and chief negotiator for 8 years. As such, I worked with the 3 presidents, and Dr. Chapman has done more than all 2 combined to make this institution a Class A institution. I also served on the faculty advisory board to the Illinois Board of Higher Education for 3 years. During those years, I visited many of the community colleges and universities in the state of Illinois. I didn't see one community college as nice and neat as Lewis and Clark Community College. In fact, not one university looked better. I can assure you that not one individual will actually disagree with that, especially those who served on that board. Once again, Dr. Chapman has done more than the other 2 presidents combined to make this institution a better institution academically and otherwise. Further, he did more to integrate the college and provide a welcoming environment for African American students, faculty, and staff. Also, he worked with the community within the college districts and beyond that to create a wonderful relationship between the college and the community as a whole. He expanded programs and opportunities for students within the communities. He is personally involved in the community more so than any other president I've been involved with. Neither of the former presidents made an attempt to do that. They didn't attempt to establish a relationship with the community in the same way. Because of his personality and effort, he's brought more money and funds into the college than any other president to make necessary adjustments and improvements within the college itself, as well as others. Once again, it will be a terrible setback for the college if his contract is not renewed. Therefore, I implore you not to make this terrible mistake. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Diane McDonough. I've been employed here for over 25 years. I believe that your entire agenda has been to get rid of Dale Chapman. Why? Because it's time, Dale? That's really not a reason. You say he makes too much money. I found some figures that actually speak the truth. If you take the current community college presidents within our ICCB cohort, figure in a 2% raise each year, and figure that to the length of time that Dale has been president, Dale's salary is right in the middle. The study was done in 2016. At that time, 8 presidents together had a total of 34 years. Dale Chapman alone had 25 years as president. No one was even close to Dale. Their years as president were 5 years, 2 years, 6 years, 3 years, 1 year, 3 years, and 2 at 7 years. Again, Dale Chapman, 25 years. You love telling everyone about his salary, but you fail to tell your constituents that this is now based on 27 years as president. It's comparing apples to oranges. Dale has never even negotiated his contract. He has simply signed what the board had presented to him. Have you even tried negotiating with him? I'm willing to bet he would make some compromises to be able to stay at Lewis and Clark. He loves this place. He lives and breathes Lewis and Clark. What do you hope to gain by hiring a new president? A lower salary? What do you think this person would make in 27 years? I can promise you one thing, you will never find another Dale Chapman. The 4 of you have come in here like a bulldozer and are trying to destroy what has taken many years to achieve. It's frightening to think that 4 people can undo all that Dale has accomplished and get rid of a president we love. Do you really think that this many people in this room can be wrong? In April, you spoke about not having malicious intent. I beg to differ. This is like a hostile takeover. I understand that you want fiscal responsibility. No one can argue with that. However, I have a hard time knowing that our board chair, Mr. Hyen, who pleaded guilty to income tax fraud back in 2005, is looking after the college's finances. I'm sure that wasn't shared with your constituents either. That's not someone I'd hire to look after my finances. Also, the prosecuting attorney in that case was Jennifer Watson, Bob Watson's daughter. I guess another part of your fiscal responsibility is not to pay Lewis and Clark staff a fair wage. The study by Gallagher showed that 80 staff members are underpaid, and you voted not to use the study or pay the underpaid employees a fair wage. Yet you approved the first part of the pay raises in this year's budget. Who do you think is going to want to work here when they know they're underpaid? How many people do you think are going to stay here knowing they're underpaid? I really don't think this is a good way to save the taxpayers' money. I'm a taxpayer, and my colleagues and I want a fair wage. I will end my comments by asking you to negotiate a new contract with President Chapman and let him continue his mission to keep Lewis and Clark the premier community college that it is today. Look around this room. This many people can't be wrong. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fred Whitworth. My wife and I own Josephine's, which is about a half a block from the college. I had a totally different speech I was going to make tonight, but I met with my accountant a couple of days ago, and we started talking about assets. And I got thinking, you know what? Lewis and Clark College, by far, of any place around 200 miles from here, Lewis and Clark College is one of the biggest assets, and it's right here in Godfrey, Illinois. I just can't imagine anybody not thinking that this college is top shelf, the best. We have over 2,000 people a week come to our store. Most of them are out of town. They always say, my, what a beautiful college. We always send them over. And we've actually had people come back and say, you know, you're right. Beautiful, outstanding, great college. So my accountant says to me, count your assets. I thought, you know what? You people have to count your assets. I have to count mine. The biggest asset that we have in this community is Lewis and Clark College. And the biggest asset to Lewis and Clark College is Dr. Chapman. Right there. You got to put your personal feelings aside no matter what they are. You got to do what's best for the community, what's best for this college. And I'm sure if you really rethink this, it'll be a 100% vote for Dr. Chapman. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Ashe Ginebra. I am the current president of the Student Government Association and the current advertising manager of the Bridge newspaper here on campus. We've also brought copies tonight for anyone interested. Last year, I was the Bridge's editor-in-chief, and the year before that, I had been a part of many different groups on campus. To say the least, I have invested a lot of time into this campus in various ways, and I very much love this school. The staff and faculty really care about the students, and a few I could even give personal credit to saving my life at one of my lowest points. This school has offered many resources and opportunities unlike any other community college I have ever heard of, such as the visit of Ivanka Trump, Fareed Zakaria of CNN, and recently, the state Supreme Court. This school hasn't been called such crude names as Last Chance Community College in quite some time, and I believe that President Dale Chapman is one of the primary reasons why. Many students know him, not only of him, but have had inspiring conversations with him and had his influence help them to achieve their goals because he truly cares about each student as a person and not just as a living statistic. You tend to see the school as a business rather than a place of education. If you must see the school as a business, then I encourage you to remember that we as students are not your customers. We are the product that you are trying to sell to the rest of the world who partner with the school to give us access to jobs and internships. The students are what lets the school have the reputation it does, and to remove such a wonderful man as Dale Chapman, who has spent the last nearly 30 years guiding those students, would most likely anger many people who work with the school. This could include the Riverbend Growth Association Board of Directors, Alton Memorial Hospital, Simmons Hanley Convoy, St. Louis Regional Airport, as you can see, the fire department, and many, many others, as well as most mayors in the local region. As quoted by a few of these people from a recent letter titled Community Call to Action Needed on the Contract Renewal of Lewis and Clark Community College President, Dr. Dale Chapman, it states, in FY 2015, LCCC's tax levy rate was dropped from 0.7043%, and under the recommendation of Dr. Chapman, in FY 2018, the rate was dropped to 0.6776%. The operating budget of LCCC during FY 2015 was roughly $34 million, but for the FY 2018, the operating budget decreased to $32 million, cutting over 40 positions. In short, the recent guidance of Dr. Dale Chapman, the college has provided valuable services to our communities with a lower tax rate and a smaller operating budget. I firmly and respectively ask you to renew Dr. Dale Chapman's contract not only as a moral decision, but as an actual smart business decision, something that you continuously claim to strive for. I sincerely hope that you all choose wisely and remember that this community and the students have their eyes on you tonight.
Good evening. Those who got eyes, let them see. Those who got ears, let them hear. Please observe what's going on here tonight. 3 minutes to speak about a great couple and educators. I have 2 speeches tonight. One was less than 3 minutes, which is this one, and one was about an hour, because you can't say enough about Dale Chapman. Not enough. I am Bob Wills. I'm here to express my sincere support for both Dr. Dale and Dr. Linda Chapman. I am the chairman of the board for the 100 Black Men of Alton, Madison County, and I also represent my personal feelings. The Chapmans continue to be fantastic leaders in this community with great respect. We believe Lewis and Clark to be one of, if not the best community college in the nation, thanks to Dale and Linda Chapman. I base my and the organization's belief on what I hear, see, and personal involvement. The 100 Black Men are partners with Lewis and Clark College as it pertains to mentoring, higher education, and enrollment for our kids. Dr. Dale Chapman have and continue to be a major supporter for our efforts and services as a tremendous advisor. The 100 Black Men utilize Lewis and Clark and all their facilities for all our functions, and we've been doing that for many years, and that is due to the relationship we have with Dr. Dale Chapman. My question to you here tonight is, where would Lewis and Clark College be if not for Dr. Dale and Dr. Linda Chapman? Please take serious my question. When I think of mentor, which is what the 100 is all about, both Dale and Linda comes to the top of what it means. Not just mentors and fantastic educators, but advisors. So I ask you tonight to remember the best and forget the rest. Dale and Linda took the leap and used out-of-the-box thinking and action, and for that, we have a great community college which no one can disagree if utilizing a clear conscience. I ask you tonight, Dale, I say to you tonight, Dale, please continue to represent humanity, human kindness, love, caring, and respect for all as you have always done. Okay, I'll stop.
Good evening as well. My name is George Milner, and I'm a lifelong resident and advocate of the River Bend community, a retired business executive and civic organization participant, a member of the Lewis and Clark Community College Board for 14 years prior to 2017, up until 2017, and a member for the last 28 years of the Monticello College Foundation, still based on this beautiful campus as its founding institution in the mid-1830s, and still a longtime financial supporter of both the college and the foundation. It's impossible to enumerate, and the job's been well done, the many significant initiatives and accomplishments Dr. Chapman has achieved for Lewis and Clark and for the Community District 536 over his last 31 years. Both before and since he assumed his current chief executive responsibilities from Dr. Neil Admire in 1992. As a great catalyst of educational advancement for our region and for tens of thousands of its students, those accomplishments which he has orchestrated have been highlighted for the record elsewhere in media articles, photos, editorial letters, both recently and throughout the years, and obviously referenced again tonight. On the other hand, I'd like to emphasize the countless other civic contributions Drs. Dale and Linda Chapman, truly a dynamic duo, have made to our community and region over the last 3 decades. From humble beginnings, yet then having achieved outstanding educational credentials which they brought to this area. Dale and Linda Chapman have brought incomparable caring, insights, character, and visibility to both our community and our region through their significant outside charitable involvement. Dr. Dale Chapman has been a master at understanding these forces and then orchestrating very often complex local, regional, governmental, business, and even national resources and alliances for the good of the college and the good of our area beyond the borders of this campus. While not limited to the following, I know he and Dr. Linda have been actively engaged at the board and officer levels and been financially supportive of many civic activities. The Montessori Children's House and its daycare facilities, Madison County Urban League, as you hear earlier, Riverbend's United Way and Growth Association, local hospitals, Head Start and Family Services, Southwestern Illinois Employees Association, and committees for governor transition and renovation of higher education. Thank you. As such, I'm here to give testimony, further testimony to the importance of maintaining the continuity, ongoing. I'd like to continue, please.
Sorry, you got 3 minutes.
Okay. An alliance is built for this wonderful Lewis and Clark community asset by negotiating and agreeing in good faith and fairness an ongoing employment agreement with Dr. Chapman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, trustees. My name is John Keller, the president of the Riverbend Growth Association, representing some 650 members. I stand before you tonight as a representative of the organization, which has written a letter of support in favor of retaining Dr. Dale Chapman as president of Lewis and Clark for at least another contract year. If that is the route you choose to take while you search for a replacement, the complexity and the size of this institution would require a nationwide search. You would not have a smooth transition. And we feel that the accountable thing to do would be to allow for an orderly transition and the ability to allow Dr. Chapman to mentor his replacement with all the institutional knowledge that he possesses. This would also allow the grant process that allows for the approximately $37 million in non-matching funds that are authorized but not awarded to not be put in jeopardy. When Dr. Dale first came to Lewis and Clark Community College some 32 years ago, it was known among the locals, one of them myself, as Last Chance Community College. Today, it is the farthest thing removed from that. It is a viable and well-respected and affordable place to earn your first 2 years of undergraduate education before transferring, or to earn certification or associate's degrees in over 40 career paths. Given the fact of Dr. Dale Chapman's longevity, it's no surprise that he's near the top of the pay scale of Illinois Community College presidents. However, it's also a fact that the average Illinois Community College president makes $222,000 a year. So it would seem that if the future of the institution, the students, and the community is what is actually behind what we feel could be your decision, then it is in the best interest of this board to compromise and negotiate a lesser base pay and benefit package. As someone said earlier, nobody's done that. That would allow the college to reduce expenditures while allowing for a smooth transition, as well as restoring trust in the leadership of this board and the future of the cultural, educational, and economic resource that this institution has become under Dr. Dale Chapman's leadership since 1992. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm State Representative Monica Bristow, District 111, and on behalf of Senator Rochelle Crow from District 56 and many other legislators in this district, I ask you to, convey our full support to President Chapman, and we ask that you renegotiate a contract for him. Under Dr. Chapman's leadership, we have worked side by side with him to do everything we can to make Lewis and Clark one of the premier community colleges in our state. We have, as John alluded to, $37.5 million in the budget in the capital plan for Lewis and Clark Community College. Each of us who have signed the letter fought to secure this money because of Dr. Chapman's vision. That money means jobs to many of the people in this room. Lewis and Clark Community College offers top-notch faculty and staff, student success, affordable high-quality academic and career programs, and graduates more than 1,000 local students each year. The college creates an annual economic impact of $369.4 million for our region, for this area, while providing technical and academic training for more than 6,000 jobs annually. In essence, Lewis and Clark creates a much larger economic impact than the taxes it uses to accomplish the mission, and that's due to Dr. Chapman's vision and leadership. Dr. Chapman, with our support and the people of the college's district, have made Lewis and Clark what it is today. Now Dr. Chapman needs your support. We ask that you continue your work with Dr. Chapman for the best future for this institution and for the communities we represent. We ask that you offer President Chapman a new negotiated contract. I have the entire letter here, but in the interest of time, I didn't read it, but Sue, I will give it to you to give to copies. Thank you very much.
My name is Sharon Roberts. I'm speaking on behalf of the following: Dave Brosh, Mark Darr, Byron Farrell, Mike Fitzgerald, Eric Gowen, Tom Huff, Mark Kratchmer, Tom Long, Michael Main, Tim Noble, Ajay Pathak, Kevin Powers, Randy Magowski, Jane Sally, Bill Shrimp, Joanne Shepard, Dwight Wirtz, Karen Wilson, and Ted Zimmerman. This list of names is comprised of Lewis and Clark alumni, corporate partners, and major donors. We are a fiscally conservative group managing the foundation's investments with a careful eye on steady growth with minimum risk. Under Dr. Chapman's 30 years of leadership, our enrollment has quadrupled. We have experienced more than $200 million in capital projects. The high school dual credit program has saved local families millions of dollars. Corporate partnerships that expanded economic and community programs were built. Private donations increased the foundation's assets to nearly $13 million. On average, his leadership has raised $500,000 per year for scholarships, academic, and institutional support. This is more than his annual compensation package. I think that's simple math, but I'm not sure. This is a crucial time for the college and the foundation to have experienced bipartisan leadership. The year 2020 brings the college's 50th anniversary on our radar, and the foundation board has launched a capital and endowment campaign with a $5 million goal. Without Dr. Chapman's continued leadership, this goal will not be reached. It will put institutional advancement at risk. Dr. Chapman is genuinely involved in projects that benefit every citizen in this college district. As the college succeeds, the region succeeds. That's been proven time and time again. He is a man of vision. Allow him to see these projects through or to hand them off to a competent successor. That will ensure that the college academic and economic impact is not disrupted. It will ensure a smooth transition and preserve millions of dollars in public grants as well as private donations. It appears that the Board of Trustees is operating as though there are only two choices: status quo or termination. The third choice is negotiation. Dr. Chapman is willing to negotiate. Why isn't the board willing to negotiate as well? Negotiation would be a win-win for all. It would allow you to say that you had completed your platform that you ran on when you were running for election. Why not negotiate? Tell me why. We simply want to know why. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Egelhoff, and I am a recently graduated student from Lewis and Clark Community College. I am here to shine a little light through a student's perspective. Let me start by saying when I was in high school, my friends and I were honored to say we went to Lewis and Clark. That was our next step after graduation. We didn't care about going off for the college experience or being in a sorority. It wasn't because of cheaper costs or shorter commutes we felt like this, but rather because of the level and degree of education we knew we were going to get, along with the love and support of the staff. Lewis and Clark had a reputation that spoke for itself. Tough but realistic classes. Teachers that stayed late to make sure you understood the homework. A security guard that walked you to your car after your night class just so you felt safe. Those are the things that made Lewis and Clark stand out. The amount of dedication and love from the staff has not changed. From the kitchen staff to the instructors to the president. The bar is raised at LCCC. The most dedicated of all these individuals, though, is Dr. Dale Chapman. He is not someone who wants to be put on a pedestal because he is one of the most selfless people I have ever met. He is the type of person who will ask you how your day is going before inquiring about what it is he really needs. He is someone that will compliment you on the small accomplishments just to keep you from being too hard on yourself. Dr. Chapman is the kind of man you want to be leading the future generation of our country. He is the type of man who has not spoken illy of those trying to manipulate him, but rather just said, "It is what it is." I understand the board is going to make the final decision tonight, but from a student's perspective, I am asking you to consider the impact his leaving would have on the college and the students. Lewis and Clark needs to continue to be a utopia for students eager to learn with the same heart and dedication that I had 2 years ago. Thank you.
My name is Renee Bauer. I have been a mental health counselor in this community for almost 40 years. I have been here at Lewis and Clark for the last 21 years. I am so thoroughly impressed with the benefits that they have brought to our campus. I'm going to ask the audience if they would participate with me for just a moment. I'd like a show of hands of the number of people who have graduated from Lewis and Clark. I'd now like to see the hands of persons whose children graduated from Lewis and Clark. Persons who have participated in programs at Lewis and Clark. Persons whose children may have attended Montessori at some time or another. These are people who are fully supporting Dr. Dale Chapman. I hope you will consider keeping him on. Thank you.
My name is Luiz Jett. I am an employee of Lewis and Clark, but this is a personal statement. Lewis and Clark has been a part of my life for more than a decade. I was a restaurant manager, and when I had my son, I decided I need to live up to my full potential, and I came to Lewis and Clark seeking a better life. I stayed here 3 years, and I got 2 degrees, and then I earned my bachelor's degree from Greenville College right here on this campus. When I got a job here, I got my master's degree in education from the University of Illinois. All of this time on my educational and professional journey, Dr. Dale Chapman and everyone else here has treated me and my colleagues, whether they be students or coworkers, with dignity and respect. The same cannot be said of you, our newest board members. In fact, Mr. Hanfelder, at the very first meeting when you were sworn in, your son threatened a friend of mine with physical violence and called me derogatory names. The new board members then invalidated perfectly good contracts at the beginning of the very same meeting. Talk about a rough start. You new board members have also denied fair market value pay to 80 employees on this campus. When giving your reason for voting against implementing the compensation study, Mr. Rust, you said it just wasn't clicking with you. Well, something's not clicking with me. Why are you here? Is it personal? Mr. Hyen, I think it's no coincidence that you unseated the chairman of the board whose daughter prosecuted and convicted you of income tax fraud. I think that you new board members may just be wealthy landowners who want to lower taxes and serve your own interests. But I'm not sure. So why are you here? Ms. Johnson, what are your plans? You often ask Dr. Chapman to explain his plans to the taxpayers. Why are you here? Why do you care enough to come and decimate our beloved school? Why do you spend your time doing so? What are you up to? You said you were not axemen, but you're sure acting like it. What campuses will you close? What programs will you end? Who will you fire? If you don't negotiate Dr. Chapman's contract, will you be hiring an axeman to replace him and do your dirty work? Who else will be separated from their lifetime work under your leadership? Dozens of my colleagues are afraid to speak out. Our very livelihoods hang in the balance. You march in here and act like you know better than people who have worked here for decades. What do you really know about Lewis and Clark? What time have you spent with the staff and the students? Morale is so low. I have no protection from you. This might be the bravest thing that I've ever done, but I'm not doing it for me. I am doing it for Lewis and Clark Community College, my colleagues, and our students, because that's why I'm here, to help our students live their best lives. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bob McDonald. I'm the business manager for the Laborers International Union North America Local 218 of Alton, Illinois. And I'm not here just on my behalf, but I'm here on the behalf of my 400 members, the men and women of the Laborers Union. Dr. Chapman has been instrumental in helping the Laborers Union. He's worked as a partner with us. Side by side, when we first set up our laborers and contractors training classes, he helped us right here. We held them on this campus. We trained them, men and women, you see back here in the orange. We trained them people, a highly skilled workforce. I'm here tonight to support Dr. Chapman. Along with that, there's one other thing I saw on the agenda, that you're considering not renewing the project labor agreement. Do you guys, and that was put out. Is that true, not true? Are you aware of what the project labor agreement is? Okay, I am. I'm quite aware of it because I've worked under it for the last 20 years, 25 years. Okay, it's an agreement between the Lewis and Clark College and the Southwestern Illinois Construction Building Trades. We're not only the laborers union, but it's the carpenters union, electricians union, the ironworkers union, all the trade unions. And they're also here tonight. I speak for them too, hopefully. But we want to make sure that you do renew our project labor agreement. That not only has brought peace and harmony. You know what? We haven't had a labor dispute at this college in 25 years. Dr. Chapman has worked side by side and partnered with the unions, and we brought you a skilled, trained workforce. And I ask you tonight, please renew Dr. Chapman's contract, and please renew our project labor agreement. With that, I'm done.
My name is Dr. Frank Bhima. Dismissing Dr. Chapman is not the way to begin a logical plan for the candidate reform platform of fiscal responsibility that you successfully ran and were duly elected in April of 2019. Your timing could very well develop an adversarial atmosphere throughout the college campus and the many communities that the graduates of Lewis and Clark live and work in. Fiscal responsibility is not simply with no debt. Is not synonymous with no debt. The debt structure that is in place presently in Lewis and Clark has had a profound effect on the quality of education that is presented at all of the Lewis and Clark campuses. Being a conservative does not mean that you say the college is spending too much money without recognizing the achievements that the money spent has resulted in. Minimalization has never brought growth to any organization. You can't de-spend yourself into a successful future. Anytime there is a change in leadership with the implied intent of major fundamental changes of philosophy of governance, the changers, that's you, should have in place a detailed plan of their intentions. It is not my opinion that the 3 newly elected board members have not been involved in a sufficient amount of time to offer expert alternatives to the functioning of the office of the president of Lewis and Clark Community College. Dr. Chapman has offered to accept a one-year extension, which includes negotiations and the reduction of his salary and his help and expertise in beginning the process of the transition of the presidency. To deny this man, with 27 years of experience as president, the opportunity to move this institution through the transition process does not appear to me to be a good business decision. I don't believe your election to the board was a mandate by the people to begin the destruction of a culture that has produced one of the top community colleges in the country by removing the president. The 3 newest board members have been on the board for 5 months. I have my doubts that you have the knowledge, expertise, or experience to make such a drastic decision. I hope I have attended a number of board meetings and have listened to some of very simplified questions and responses that came from the understandably uninformed new members of the board. These are the same people that are now experts enough to decide that it's time for the president to go? Are you adequately educated about the potential loss of funding that could happen if you force a sudden change in the administration without a plan of succession in place? Are you prepared to have your own source of continued funding if any of the current resources are affected by this swift change in leadership? Excuse me, I have a couple more minutes. Had a number of claps there. I asked this question, and this is the most important part of my statement. Is the 2019-20 Lewis and Clark student receiving a better education? That's too bad, because this was very important.
Good evening. My name is Ward, and I'm just an old man that lives down the lane. And I've learned a few things in my life journey, and I've been part of decisions where older, experienced people were thrown aside for the new and young and cheaper. And every time I've seen that happen in my life, the money saved ended up going down the drain by the mistakes and the stupidity of the young and energetic who don't know anything. I've heard the words and I've seen the ideas, and now I see the decision that you're about to make. And in my world, they don't jive. And the only thing that stands between me and a decent taste in my mouth, which is currently foul, is a lack of principle and integrity. I hope you can live with the horrific decision you're going to make, because there isn't a person in this room tonight who has not shared plenty of justification for that young man to keep his job. Oh, okay. Dale? Sir.
I'm Sam Roberts. I'm a local Ford dealer, and other dealers in the area like myself sell a lot of trucks. You know who the biggest buyers on trucks are? These guys right back here, these construction workers. So they kind of stole some of my thunder already tonight. How do you think they're going to feel about the opportunity of this $37 million renovation project going away if something happens to Dr. Chapman? You know, I've talked to a lot of legislators, and when you award money like that, a lot of it goes to a business or to a corporation or to an institution like the college because of the leadership and the record that that leadership has. You know, you're not going to go out and give somebody $1 million that you don't know what they're going to do with it. They know what Dale and his team's going to do with that. They're not happy about losing the opportunity of this job of $37 million, because all these ladies and gentlemen back here, that labor is going to be a big chunk of that. And the biggest part of that money they earn is going back into the economy. Whether it's houses, washing machines, cars, whatever it is, it's going back in our economy in the Riverbend area. So we need to keep the competent leadership with Dale Chapman. You know, he attracts more money to the Southern Illinois region than he costs us. Don't cripple the region's economy, putting the $37 million in countless construction jobs at risk. Like everybody else that says, you got a win-win situation here. You said you were going to lower administrative costs. Dale says he's reasonable to negotiate. It's a win-win for both of you. And you know, a lot of this stuff is, they talk about Dale and talk about Linda, and Dale comes up to our place once in a while for an oil change. We hire a lot of Lewis and Clark Community College students, both men and women, work part-time in a place. We hire out of the auto mechanics place, okay? We had a couple of guys there, been a year. One of them come up there the other day. He says, "You're not going to believe what happened to me today." I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Dr. Chapman from the college came back to my work stall and asked me how I was doing and if I knew how I liked my job." And he says, "Lewis and Clark prepared me well for this job." So this guy lives his business 24/7, 365. He doesn't go on the clock. But believe me, he's one of the greatest assets we got in the Riverbend area. We can't afford to lose him. Thank you.
Donna Egelhoff, nursing, Lewis and Clark Community College nursing program. Since 1992, Dr. Dale Chapman has never negotiated a contract. He asked the board for a contract, not an extension or an amount. And the board of four is punishing a man that did nothing anyone else would do but sign contracts that was set before him in the past. The action item on the agenda is written ambiguously. There is not any professional consideration. I highly recommend a board member amend action item AA by striking out whether to extend and insert negotiations for. Mr. Russ, on the agenda, you may want to defer discussion X on the Gallagher study. There should not be any update on something in August that was voted no action. You did not table that. You did not reintroduce it in September. So be careful, because I do have a FOIA and people looking at this, and I will announce anything that is discussed tonight on that study. Item Y for discussion on nepotism comes from Miss Julie. I read the policy and it seems pretty straightforward. Dr. Linda has no bearing on Dale's contract, nor does he evaluate her. At what point can Linda be an independent professional woman? You have significantly changed Linda's contract in April. So if this is a gaslighting strategy, then when does it start becoming harassment or abuse and not information? In all sincerity, this board has an opportunity and an obligation to listen what the needs and wants are and to do what's right tonight. However, I pity the chairman and the new board members. I honestly feel that you are incapable of seeing past the platform that you have set yourself on. Your pattern of gaslighting and narcissistic behavior cannot be reasoned with. And in the end, we all suffer. I'm sure you're not concerned, but know that it is extremely difficult to be the light in the presence of your darkness.
My name is Sabrina Davis. I've been an employee of Lewis & Clark for close to 10 years. I'm part of a team that manages some very important initiatives that take place at the Scott Bibb Center in Alton, Illinois. I know that came up in our last board meeting, and one of the initiatives there that also came up was the AmeriCorps initiative. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit. In the last 6 years, the students who are doing service through AmeriCorps have done over 50,000 hours of service in our community. I think that that alone deserves some applause, 50,000 hours of service. Those students have earned over $200,000 in AmeriCorps education awards that they are able to use for up to 7 years to go to college. Most of our students are first-generation college students, and they are earning those awards. They are using them to come to college, and they're changing not just their futures, but generations for their families. The Scott Bibb Center is not just a building. It's a building block of our community. It's changing families. And what we do there really matters. And Dr. Dale, what you do really matters. So thank you.
My name is T.A. Ambrose, and I would like to thank the Lord Jesus for being here tonight, and thank you, board members. I mean, you folks are going out of your way to. You're not getting a lot of pay for this job. You're not getting a lot of. From what I hear tonight, you're not getting much applause, especially the new ones. And anyway, I think we have to look at the bigger picture here. Look at our state. Look at Alton. Just take Alton, for example. 50% rentals. People are hurting. I mean, the taxpayers. Sure, you folks out here, all these folks out here, in construction at the college, they're all making good money. But what about the average person? What about the average Joe? Can't even afford a house. Look at our state. Look, if Mr. Chapman's supposed to be such a good leader, how come we're so far in debt? That's not setting a good example for our students. Setting a bad example. What about the people as a whole? I mean, I think the trustees ought to be commended, myself, all of them, for working for the hard work they do for no reimbursement. And I haven't heard much praise tonight for you folks that are doing the job. And I know you're here just to try to be a help to the community. And the folks that have spoke tonight are not a help to the community. They're thinking of their own self. They're all thinking of their own self. It's kind of like a hypocrisy, I think.
Just like to thank the board for the public comment time this evening. I appreciate it. I'm glad to have it at the beginning of the meeting again. I'm a faculty member in the music department and could speak at length about all this, but there's no point. Everything that needs to be said has already been said, except maybe by the last gentleman. I'll read some statements instead. I asked this question: is the 2019-2020 LC student receiving a better education than a student did prior to Dr. Chapman's presidency? If the answer is yes, then his contract should be renegotiated. If it's not, then his tenure should end. Has the board asked that question to the administration, to the professors and instructors, to the community who hire and employ these students and graduates? Have you asked that question to the most important of all, the students, present day and alumni? If their answer is yes, that the educational process, the atmosphere, and the resulting graduations continue to improve, then your discussion of non-negotiating Dr. Chapman's contract is ill-advised at best, and in actuality is a gross misconduct of your infancy powers. 27 years versus 5 months. I ask you tonight to postpone your decision, table the negotiation vote until you have a better understanding of the negative trickle-down effects this decision will have on the entire LC region. Govern what you know and understand. Please don't begin to the possible downward trend of this institution using the guise of conservative fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Dan Sheeter, Brighton, Illinois. I promised my sons I would not say a word, but that's not going to happen. Sorry, I got a little revved up. But I remember attending the University of Illinois function, and it was at Pure Marquette, and Dr. Chapman was there, and just newly appointed Provost Easter, who I used to work for, sat down next to me, and he was talking. Do you think we are actually going to get this Great Rivers thing to go? Dr. Chapman, how many people are employed there, and how many students a year go there to learn?
Around 35 people employed there, and a lot of students come through it.
A joint function between you and the University of Illinois, and who else?
15. I'm not sure I'm supposed to comment during the public comment section. But
Well, I just want everybody to know he goes way above and beyond what he's ever wanted to do. He has made so many observations around here. The man kind of struck my nail is, I don't think you can predict, and I learned this at Lewis and Clark and the University of Illinois, that your liabilities does not show your profitability. I look at here, and every year he's increased my assets here. He's put buildings here, employed these guys, gave them jobs, sent their kids to school here. He alone, with his joint college degree, has saved me, 2 years college right off the top. You know, I don't understand. It seems like you have a witch hunt or an axe to grind, but you really need to find somebody else. And they're... I'll guarantee you there's probably not a tighter man in this room than myself. I drive a truck till it falls apart. You know, Roberts Ford had starved to death on the vehicles I'd buy. So thank you, Dr. Chapman, and thanks for sharing your thoughts with everybody.
My name's Lori Keithy. I teach here at Lewis and Clark Community College. And I contemplated whether I wanted to speak or tell my little story, but after the comments preceding Peter Hussey, I felt the need that I do really need to make this statement. My husband and I own rental properties here in Alton, and we have a lot of tenants, a lot of them low income. And we did have this particular tenant who had been on Section 8 housing assistance for most of her adult life. She attended Scott Bibb. This is a single mother of 2 who was getting food stamps, Medicaid, housing assistance. She went to Scott Bibb, and in February she got a job. And in May, she let us know that she no longer qualified for Section 8 housing. She no longer qualified for LINK. She no longer qualified for Medicaid. She had to move out because she was now on her own. She could afford her own house, pay her own health care benefits, and pay for her own food for her family. So Dr. Chapman did have a vision, and he made a difference in this woman's life and her family's life. Now there's one less family receiving assistance. So this is just one story, and I'm sure there's many more out there. But I know some of you had questions about what Scott Bibb is all about, what that center does. It's changing lives, it's changing families, it's building up our economy, getting people off state aid. Thank you.
Mine's real short and sweet. I've been at the college longer than Dr. Dale has been president. I've seen it grow. He's made me very proud. It's a wonderful university. And as I've listened to everybody tonight, I have almost come to tears. I have great pride in Dr. Dale. And you know what? I think the damn place has had a bargain. I think he needs a raise.
My name is Joanne Shepard, and I've served on the foundation board since it started. In fact, we started the foundation board. It was about 30 years ago. I have also been on the Alton School District Board, president 1 year. I served 8 years on the Alton School District Board. When you go into executive session, remember, it will just take one of you to do the right thing.
Good evening. I would like to speak on behalf of Lewis and Clark students and address the decision by the board members to not renew Dr. Chapman's contract. I have a few questions regarding the decision. First of all, why? Over the course of the past few months, I've heard board members state that their jobs require them to provide financial oversight, which I agree with. If there are ways to make the college more fiscally responsible, then action should be taken to do so. In addition, members have stated that they must answer to taxpayers and their constituents. But from what I can tell, the members of this college, as well as students that attend, fall into that category. Have you sought input from the students? Have you visited off-site complexes to see how they operate or how people there interact? Have you asked the students how this change will affect them? As student trustee, my voice is the student's voice. It is in our best interest in which I act. Like other members of the board, I must consider how my constituents would benefit from my action. Although my vote is only an advisory vote, speaking on behalf of the student body carries a lot of weight and responsibility. It is my view that the student body benefits greatly from Dr. Chapman's leadership. The campus has expanded exponentially. Programs have been added. Funds have been awarded that enhance the overall learning experience and options that students have to be successful. Dr. Chapman has worked diligently, along with other staff, to grow Lewis and Clark into an institution that garners respect and attracts students, not just in Illinois, but beyond. His relationship with community leaders, local and statewide, have played an integral part in that growth. Those relationships have taken years to build and function bidirectionally to assist employers with candidate placement, as well as fills the need of our community. How will those relationships be affected if he's no longer there in that role to foster them? I'm not saying that no one is capable of fulfilling the role as president of Lewis and Clark, but no one can fill Dr. Chapman's shoes. Excellence. Excellence has a trickle-down effect, and I believe that Dr. Chapman encourages just that. I can only speak from my personal perspective as a nursing student. The staff and faculty do not just educate students on how to be a nurse, they facilitate competency and confidence. They genuinely care for each student in a way that I have not experienced. There's a reason that the NCLEX pass rate is so high when LC nursing students are hired so quickly following completion of the program. It is because the reputation of excellence is known within the nursing community. Excellence that comes from great leadership. One cannot operate a successful and renowned program without it. Politics aside, Lewis and Clark is composed of students who attend in hopes of creating a better future for themselves and for their families. I'm asking you to look beyond the numbers in the ledger and view the college as a whole. Each student is not just a number, the faculty not just an expense. We are more. As members, okay, thank you.
Does anyone else wish to make a public comment? If you do not wish to make a public comment or have a written statement, perhaps you could submit that to President Chapman, and he could share that with the board later. Mr. Bemis, you said something about you had an important element. Could you make a copy of that and give it to Dr. Chapman so we could distribute that with the board? Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Chapman or Dr. Chapman, I think that's for something later to read. Okay. Well, as the board chairman, I thank you all for attending our public meeting tonight and expressing your views and opinions. We will now move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you very much. We now have the omnibus agenda, and the following items will be approved in one motion unless any board member wishes to have an item pulled prior to the vote.
Mr. Chairman, before we go on to the omnibus agenda, I'd like to move that we move Roman numeral 8A to the end of the action items after item AI.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
Could you repeat that?
Yeah. Item AA starts out action on whether to extend president. I'd like to move that to the end of the action items after, in other words, it would be after item AI.
Motion has been made and second. Any other discussion? Call for the vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion carried. We'll go to number 4, omnibus agenda. Are there any of the items listed there that you wanted to deal with separately? Pulled from the...
Yes, I'd like to pull item B as in boy, C as in cat, E as in equal, G as in good, H as in Henry, and I as in indigo. And that's it.
Any other board members want to pull an item? This is. If not, do we have a motion to approve A, D, F, J, K, and L with one motion? That doesn't work at all.
So move.
A second?
I'll second. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded that we approve A, D, F, J, K, and L. Any discussion? If not, call for the vote.
I just mention one thing. On L, we have gifts. Gifts have been received. And there are 3 vehicles, 4 Taurus, 2 cargo vans from the Illinois Community College Board, East St. Louis Higher Education Center, gifted to the Lewis and Clark Automotive
program for use by the automotive program. So I just want to acknowledge that gift.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
McCain? Yes. Wirtz?
Yes.
Hyan?
Yes. Financial highlights, B.
Yeah, I just had one, I don't know, question or observation, I guess you'd say. There's an item which to me is a fairly significant financial highlight on page 51. We're talking about $9 million of bond principal and interest payment. And I don't have any particular problem with that. I'm just wondering if maybe someone could explain why that's not a financial highlight. Mary?
Where it's invoices requiring board approval.
Yeah.
So we ask for your approval to make those payments before they're made. They're actually due at the end of October.
I understand that. It just seems like that should be in the financial highlights. I don't know, just.
The financial highlights, the following items are presented to highlight various financial transactions of the college during September 2019. The bond payments are October payments.
Okay, so it's actually a different time period. Okay. So that the bond and interest payments will be a highlight in next month.
They will be
Next
part of
month,
the
right?
cash disbursements,
Next
yes.
month, okay. There'll be next month a financial highlight.
As disbursements, yes.
No, as a financial highlight.
Well, not
No.
in and of itself. We don't have a section that says bond payments.
Okay.
But it will appear under cash disbursements under cash flow.
Okay. That's enough on that. Yeah, I had a.
Are you still on B?
Yes.
We haven't had a
I'm
motion
I'm
yet.
done with B.
We haven't had a motion
So
yet.
we have to have a motion.
Is there a motion to approve B?
So move.
If there's a
Second.
tech in the house, so you could get these mics working better.
A second.
Any discussion? Yes, okay, call for the vote.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
McCain? Yes. Wirtz?
Yes.
Hyan?
Yes. Item C, bills, 29 through 64.
Okay, I just have a question on page 52. There's some payments for electricity to AEP, and there's also payments to Ameren. I just am curious as to what the difference is. I know what Ameren is, obviously, but is AEP at a different location, or?
Is that the aggregator? But, if we don't know these in advance, it's hard to know on the spot. But I think that this is a.
Well, it was $65,000 in the 1 month to AEP.
Yeah, but we do an aggregator service. We don't buy. We contract out for.
Okay. So this is probably okay. Yeah, this was Ameren is just a distribution
Right,
charge.
right.
AEP is the electrical charge.
I'm guessing, but I'll
Power charge.
confirm that.
That makes sense.
The supplier, yeah.
Are you done with C? Motion to approve C, bills.
So move.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Or let's roll call.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Item E, balance sheet.
Yeah, just a quick question, I guess you'd say on,
She needs to make a motion first.
oh, yeah. I move that we approve item C, Roman numeral 4C.
We've done that one, haven't we?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I meant item E.
Yes, okay. Is there a second? On E?
Second.
Motion been made and second? Okay. Now, is there a discussion?
Yeah, I just was wondering, we still are looking at June 30th balance sheets, and I'm just kind of wondering, will we see the new ones next month, or how does that work? I know we talked about that a little bit last month.
We did talk about that last month, and as I left, I asked Ms. Johnson if she would like us to bring forward fiscal year 20 at this meeting or keep with our pattern of bringing forward the prior year until the audit was complete. And we were instructed that it would be fine to go ahead and bring 19.
Call for the vote? Or not, any further discussion on that or not? Okay, call for the vote.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
McCain?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
Hyen?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
G, bid information. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any discussion on bid information?
Yes, on page 77, we have a bid from Agency for Inclusive Learning and Living, LLC, and I looked at that, and what is the total budget for that? That's just one. We just show an hourly rate there, but is there an annual cost that we have an estimate of what the annual cost is?
We have somebody who can answer that. Hold on.
Hi. At $24,000 for the year was written into the grant proposal. So this is year 2 of a 3-year grant.
And what do they do? What are they sort?
So that's the grant that replicated the College for Life program at our Edwardsville campus, and they are working, setting up the classrooms and ordering supplies and getting everything ready to go.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Call for the vote.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
McCain?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
Hyen?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Item H, motion to approve requiring board approval. Item H.
I move we approve.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, looking at page 80, there's an item on there that's called where am I looking? Let me find it here for a minute. The people admin. It adds up to about $130,000 for 5 years. It is, let's find it here. It's the last item on that page. And the year one total is 24,000 and some, but this is actually a 5-year contract. So I consider it a $130,000 commitment. Were there bids taken for this? Did we approve bids on this, or and what is this for? Is this for? Well, it must be for HR.
Sorry, yeah. This is our primary recruiting and onboarding software that we use. You've heard of PeopleSoft probably in the private sector often is used. This is what we use, very highly used in higher education. So this is what we do for all of our applicant tracking, all of our job postings, and then we onboard through the software as well. We've used it since 2006, I believe.
Did you get bids, or by any chance?
Well, we did not this year. I know that, so when we went to this software platform back in, I believe it was 6, long before I was here, this kind of coincided with when we brought our ERP software, Ellucian, on board. They interface very well with Ellucian, and it's been a product we've used ever since, very HR friendly. So we don't bid this on an annual basis, I guess, to answer your.
Well, no, I wouldn't. Yeah, it's a 5-year deal, right?
Well, so they gave us 3 options this year. So we had an option. The one we recommended was the 5 years, so the $24,571. Choosing a 5-year deal allows you to then have a 3% increase each year. The other options were to take an 8% increase 1 year or a 5% annual over 3 years. So over the long run, looking at the savings that we feel we would achieve, we'd look at a 5-year where we'd go to $24,571. In year 5, we'd be at $27,655. If we were to take the 1 year and take 8%, assuming that continues, by year 5, we'd be at $35,000 for that product. So we looked at a long-term cost of that, thinking this is a product we would expect to continue to use. If not, to your point, we would be bidding it out and looking at similar costs.
But it sounds like from what you said there, it might not. If we went with a different vendor, it might not work as well with Ellucian. Is that correct?
I'm sure there are other products that do work with Ellucian, but this is one that certainly interfaces with Ellucian, and it is something we're very familiar with, something we've used, and my specialists in my department have used, since inception.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll probably be getting into the need for more bidding at a different time.
Dr. Chapman, I have a question. I'd ask you about how we attract new students here, and you said primarily they get on their cell phones and do all that. And on page 80, we have arrow signs. And is there been a study, or do you know whether that really works?
We have a kind of a comprehensive approach. We do internet and media sensitive kinds of recruiting. But we also use billboards.
So we survey all the students on campus every 2 years and try to figure out the ways that they're finding out about Lewis and Clark and just the media that they're using. And so we have a really kind of a diversified marketing plan that I'd love to share with you at a future meeting date. But this billboard advertising is just one small piece of that overall plan. It represents a small piece of our total marketing efforts. But I will just say specifically, we are kind of limited on billboards in this area, and they are expensive, so we don't do a lot of them. We try to find digital billboards because it allows us to save money on the actual material cost of producing a billboard, and we can change out those ads more frequently. This particular contract with Arrow Signs is called a SignFlex program, and it allows us to have 3 different messages, and they move them to all of their different SignFlex locations throughout the area. So just increases exposure, and we've found it's, in terms of billboards, the most affordable, and as I said, it increases our exposure because it does change locations.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Call for the vote.
Tolgetsky,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Wertz,
Yes.
Hyatt.
Yes. Item I, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I do have one question. On page 291, there's an item called Unity for $50,294. Can somebody tell me what that is? Page 291? Yeah, the vendor is Unify.
So it's part of the telephony system. So it's a piece of software regarding the telephony system the college uses. It's a part of the telephony system, the phone system. That it's a software associated with the phone system that is required for phone operations. And I guess this is an update.
I mean, was it something that was bid? Were there bids on this? Are there alternatives?
Hold on, Mary Sue.
Again, I'll tell you what I know or don't know. This was submitted to me by Jeff Watson, who's over, as you know, over the technology and telecommunications. As this reads, it's the annual phone system maintenance.
Right.
So it's a maintenance program for the phones. If you look on page 291 at the actual invoice that was submitted for payment, you can see it covers 1,626 licenses for a flex license, whatever that is. But there's 400 voice licenses, 400 unified licenses. Expressions is our voicemail system. That's everything I know about telephones in this contract, but that is where the cost came from, and that is where the request came from. We would need to have some sort of a maintenance program on our phones. As to bidding, there are many things, professional contracts and software, that isn't required to be bid by statute. So no, we do not bid unless we feel there is a benefit in bidding, as there's costs not only in advertising but in people time to do that.
Back when the phone system was, we were looking at a new phone system, we did, look at several different options for that, and did take quotes and all that back, some years back, and this is maintaining the existing system.
I mean, once you choose your phone system, you're pretty much tied into the maintenance program or the company for that maintenance, unless you choose to put in an entire new phone system, which would cost considerably more. The same with people admin. If we were to go out and try to secure a different software, we would have implementation costs.
Yeah, you tend to get locked in, right? Was it Unify? Was that the name of the vendor of the phone system itself, or is this a separate vendor? I've never heard of this vendor for a phone system.
I think they're a service vendor for the phone system.
Service vendor.
So then it's coming out of the telecommunications operating funds. That's part of the operating
Right.
budget, or is that a restricted fund?
It's part of the operating budget.
Funded by the tech plan.
What?
It's part of the operating budget, but as it says, it's funded by the tech plan,
So it's coming out of tech plan?
but in the operating budget.
We do have some telecommunications dollars in the operating budget that are institutional
Okay.
funds, and this is budgeted for that.
Oh, this is institutional money? Okay.
This
okay.
is
All right,
institutional
sorry.
money, yes.
Any other comments or questions? Call for the vote.
Tolgetsky,
Yes.
Rust,
Yes?
Johnson,
Yes.
Hanfelder,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
McCain,
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Hyen.
Yes. Move on to number 5, informational items. First item, awarded grants and sponsored contracts.
Everything in the information items M through Q are as printed in your board packet.
One of the items under Q, announcements, we're going to have a special board meeting October 24th at 5:30. Is that correct?
Yes, but the location that was listed there is not correct because we found out we need to move it to a different location, so it will be in the comments.
Be in the comments, yeah.
It will be in the
So
comments?
why don't we repeat that, Sue? It'll be October 24th at 5:30.
October 24th, 5:30 in the comments.
Okay, we'll talk about the tax
Tax
and
levy
the
and
bonds.
bonds, right.
And the bonds, okay. Well, I had appointed Julie and Kevin to review the bond issue with the bonding company, and we're $130 million in debt, and I hope that you two will be working on that and add information to that meeting, perhaps.
Yeah, the actual number, Mary?
I was reviewing a draft of the audit today, and I believe it's $121 million, and that is before the payments that are presented in this board book.
Which would be $9 million.
Have applied. So bring it down to about 112.
112.
And that includes such things as accretion and amortization, not principal bond balances.
Okay, so we're 121 million?
It would be 112 in November, right?
Right.
Okay.
It's a moving number.
Okay. Yeah, I just noticed that SWIC had a debt of 17.5 million, and I just, wanted to compare.
They have a totally different tax base as well. You have to consider all of that.
Okay. Thank you.
But the purpose of that meeting and the next meeting is to get on the same page with these numbers.
Sure.
Dr. Chapman, the 112 million will be paid off by approximately when?
70% within 10 years.
10 years.
We asked for a schedule of how that was going to work, and we've never seen it.
It'll be at the next meeting.
Thank you. Any other comments about number 5, informational items?
Yeah, I just had a comment on item N there. It's on page 318. There's an item on there called Population Demography of Bird-Voiced Tree Frogs in Southern Illinois. Now, I don't have anything against tree frogs. Matter of fact, I love tree frogs. I really do. Seriously, I love tree frogs. And this is already a done deal, I think. This has already been, been approved and that. We've got, it looks like a match of $96,632 that we're obligated on. But this is a project down on Cache River, down in Shawnee. It's 2.5 hours away. And this would be, in my mind, in my opinion, would be the type of grant that would be very questionable that we would want to be involved in. I mean,
Do we have people from NGREC here? Oh, here's Gary.
I understand from the title, your reflection, that it might not be in the heart of our focus, but the reality is the system that we live in is all interrelated. And one of the indicators of system stress are tree frogs and other amphibians. And so it is, in fact, quite appropriate to be part of our research portfolio. The match is not a cash match. It's an in-kind match. So again, there's no money going out. It's simply money that's coming in. And again, that's an integral part of the system that we all live in. And the Cache River happens to be a good location to do it.
We may not have bird-voiced tree frogs up here for all I know. Are they around? Are they in
Yes,
all over in Illinois? Or?
They are, but a major population area where they are impacted is the Cache River, and so it makes sense to do it there. Plus, the granting agency has a particular interest in both tree frogs and the location, so that's another reason. It's not necessarily our choice only.
And these grant funds help to supplement the college funds and
Oh, totally, yeah. There's indirect cost on this, and it, again, we have no dollars out, it's all dollars in.
So win-win.
Thank you, Doctor. Any other comments about informational items or questions? If not, we'll move on to discussion items. Construction project status.
Lori Artis, Vice President of Administration.
So just a few updates. The construction project status report is on page 446 in your book. The George Terry Riverbend Arena project is still moving along on target. We did the walkthrough this past week, and I believe we're waiting on carpet in the offices that I was told is being delivered and hopefully installed this week. We've got some stair treads on the main entrance from the second floor to the first floor, and the second floor was all the drywall is complete. They were mudding. The ceiling tiles are going in, and we are still expected to be in there and have all of our athletic staff and classes moved back in for the start of the spring semester. Nothing really new to report on the main complex and foundation improvements. I understand CDB and AAIC are answering each other's questions right now, but we'll give you an update when we hear more on that. On the campus site lighting improvement project, we are receiving the fixtures this week for the main part of campus through the walkway. We are still waiting on the fixtures. From what we understand, it's a manufacturer supply problem, and we're waiting on those fixtures and hoping to get those completed just for the parking lot itself. So, any questions on any of those projects?
No comments. What about student loan default rate?
So Angela Weaver is here, I think, who's head of student financial aid, and we have some good news on the student default rate. Thanks to Angela's great work and her team.
Good evening, everyone. So we've had some continued decline in our student loan default rate. And our student loan default rate for fiscal year 2016 is 11.3%. It's really something because we have probably, I would say, 3 groups of students. We have students that can only attend Lewis and Clark via student loans. That's all they're eligible for. And then we have students that are eligible for a combination of grants and loans. And then another group of students we have are those students that are most needy students that are eligible for grants, and sometimes they're eligible for maximum grants, both federal and state. And those students, when they want to borrow, we have them actually come into the financial aid office and we counsel them. Because many of those students can leave at Lewis and Clark without any debt. And if they have to borrow, we try to find out if it's for educational reasons. So if a student comes to the office and they tell me they want to borrow to buy a car, we're not going to do a student loan for a car. If they come and tell me they want to borrow to go on vacation, we're not going to do a student loan for vacation. But if they need tools, if they're in the automotive program, or they have to pay for fees, excess fees, and then the nursing program or dental program, we are there to help, or even childcare, or even a computer. So that counseling, I think, makes a big difference, even though we can't control what students do when they leave Lewis and Clark. The counseling that we try to do, we think really sways that number, and we're hoping for that continued decline and to maintain a low default rate in the years to come.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, Angela? Okay.
Next, enrollment. Any comments on that from?
I think that was on as an information item, and I think that we presented the information to I think it was Julie or others who asked for that, so I have no further comments unless there's any comments that anybody would like to make. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the information.
Outstanding opportunity for nursing students.
Dr. Zawinski's here. Here she comes.
Good evening. I'd like to take a moment tonight to brag about one of our outstanding staff members, and that is Donna Egelhoff. She did, yeah. I'm going to invite her up because she can tell you more about what she did this summer for our students, but let me just say that over 60 students came on their own time this summer to spend 3 days with Donna and her staff to better themselves for a great start this fall. So Donna?
Thank you, Dr. Zawinski, and I'm so honored. Actually, the showcase is our students, and the magic is not me. It's the staff, support staff, and administration. In 2023, the NCLEX is planning on changing, and one of the premier changes is going to be on clinical judgment. So now is the time to start, even though these students will not be affected. As a nursing program, we need to begin work now. In trying to brainstorm, standardize simulation. A lot of colleges use that, especially universities. And standardized simulation is using live people. However, usually it's actors, actresses. There has to be a stipend. If we have volunteers, usually it's retired people. So I had this kind of wild idea and posed it to my director, and I could not be more pleased to work with directors Sherry Banovic, Assistant Diane McDonough, and Assistant Sheila Emmerich. And they were all on board. They were patients. And Diane was able to get a pediatric patient. So what kind of happened sort of by accident is we were able to touch upon all of the growth and development issues. And by having the standardized patients, then our students were able to work on professional and management skills and to have that dialogue, and then actually do clinical judgment. What came of that is I had students from every semester. So again, Lewis and Clark is set aside as one of the top innovators that first, second, third, and fourth got to pair up and use those leadership skills, and they got to meet other nursing students that they normally don't have class with. During the day, Dr. Sue Zawinski came in and talked and interacted with our students. The other interesting thing that happened is Elsevier Publishing Company is based out of St. Louis, but is a nationwide publishing company. And Sharifa had contacted me, and she's part of a simulation writing team that I've also worked with in the past, and said, we want to come to Lewis and Clark. We want to look at your simulation labs. And I said, well, I'm trying something new. Why don't you come see what our students are doing? And with that whole simulation team from a publishing company came and observed our students. But I want to personally thank Dr. Dale Chapman, because he not only came over to interact with our students, but he welcomed the visitors to campus. The magic, the learning that happened that day came from Dr. Dale Chapman, Dean Sue Zawinski, Director Sherry Banovic, the staff and support staff, administration of Diane McDonough and Sheila Emmerich, because the message to our students, we care about your education. We are here and we are going to empower you, and we are going to help you be successful. So I did nothing. They did all the magic. But anyway, I cannot thank the team enough, and I think the students really enjoyed it. Questions? Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Donna, was this at our facility over here where this was held?
Yes, it was in our nursing building here. Yes, it was.
Thank you.
Yes.
Status report on the hiring of a recruiter.
Gabe, you going to say that? Lori?
So I think when we wrote the board item, we had updated the board at that time how many applicants and interviews. Happy to report that the committee had selected their top applicant, and on Monday he has accepted the position. So we're just working on trying to finalize a start date with our recruiter. So he's an alumni, was an athlete here on our campus from 2014 until 2016, was a part of the soccer team that made the national run. Very energetic young man and has a background in recruiting currently. So.
Thank you.
W, President's report on latest evaluation process for VPs and his direct reports.
Right, so I was asked by the board to kind of go through how we go about doing, evaluation at this institution, especially my direct reports. Everybody has the same, every manager has the same sort of performance assessment tool that we use, as the details of who the employee is. Part one has to do with performance, knowledge of the job, quality of the work, productivity, independence, kind of self-development, initiations, and then optical and technical skills, fiscal management skills, controls, operating costs by effectively using staff, materials, and equipment, monitors expenditures, computer and technical skills, possesses employees' computer technical skills as needed for the position, adherence to college policies and mission, complies with the college policies and procedures, their attendance at the work site, critical thinking skills, judgment, decision making, identifies and evaluates key issues affecting the department, the institution, reaching timely and sound conclusions, leadership and accountability, dependability and accountability, cooperation, conduct and support of the mission of the college, communication skills, interpersonal skills, innovation as a change agent kinds of characteristics, and then the overall performance. Then the supervisor, manager of records, sits down and they work through all of the review the employee's success in achieving those goals, objectives, and strategies as identified by the last performance review, sets goals and objectives that were not a part of the last evaluation, and then reviews parts 1 and 2 of this, basically then sets the goals and objectives for the next year and holds that person accountable. The employee signs this, the manager signs this, and the next level of supervisor signs this as kind of the commitment of where that employee's going to, how the employee's going to be held accountable over the next period of time. So that's kind of the format that's used, and every manager has one of these, and we do these annually.
Okay, including the VPs?
Including VPs.
How are our relatives evaluated?
Relatives are evaluated like anybody else would be evaluated. You mean my relatives? Or?
Well, I don't know. I don't know all the staff, but I mean, is there any situation where a relative's evaluating a relative?
Well,
what happens?
We have a nepotism policy, as you know, which I think we're going to talk about. With the so the only person that isn't in a direct line management that would affect would be Dr. Linda Chapman, who's the academic vice president. If that's what you mean, and so that that person would not be evaluated by me, as it was stated earlier.
Who evaluates?
That person would be evaluated by the board chair.
Okay, and then do you get the same form? Are you evaluated?
I'm also evaluated by the board chair, and I have the same form. And you're welcome to look at it.
Yeah, when was the last time you were evaluated?
We do it annually.
Okay, so that would have been last spring?
Yeah, so the next ones are due in the spring of 2020.
So there should be one on file for last spring when
Right,
the board
right,
chair
right.
evaluated you?
Right. Be glad to show it to you.
Okay, so yeah, there's a file of them the board could
Yep.
look at if we wanted to.
Welcome to have it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? If not, update from the board on the status of the Gallagher compensation study, X.
And I guess that would be me. Dr. Chapman, Julie and I, and Gabe, and I think Lori was there at least for one of the sessions. We kind of got together to talk about the Gallagher compensation study, which we didn't pass because we weren't ready to pass it. The majority were not ready to pass it, and we wanted some questions answered and some some initiatives along in association with that study. So there were like 5 items or initiatives that we kind of agreed upon. The first initiative is the extended cabinet positions. That would be, I think you probably all know who the extended cabinet positions are. It reports to Dr. Chapman and I guess one level down. And we wanted those to be, they were excluded from the Gallagher study. And we wanted those positions to be included in the Gallagher study. And so we agreed that that would be done. And so in the November meeting, there'll be a motion in the agenda to approve the expenditure of probably $10,000 to $15,000 for a study of those positions, compensation study of those positions. Number 2, performance evaluations will be incorporated into the compensation system and will have an effect on compensation. That doesn't mean that is the only consideration. It's just saying that performance, some might call it merit, would be incorporated as a portion of the process of compensation. And the third thing was that we wanted to see push it, you gotta push it.
There you go. Well.
Okay, thank you, Sue. So the third thing was that there were some positions that where there has been turnover, and that were of special concern, and we just asked that those positions be identified, and in the implementation of the Gallagher compensation study, that those positions that are causing us problems, so to speak, would be the implementation would be accelerated in those cases, and we agreed on that. Number 4. We wanted to see what our neighbor, the Southwest Illinois College, is doing. They were not included in the Gallagher study. In my estimation, that they weren't. It seemed to me very odd that they weren't included. The justification was that they were not in our quote-unquote cohort. I don't know about that. Some of the how that's defined was a little bit nebulous to me. But anyway, we wanted to see that because they're our next door neighbor. And with some difficulty, some hard work by Gabe and Dr. Chapman, we did get that information from them. And we will be discussing that. And I'm not talking about how that has or has not been incorporated into the study itself. And then number 5 is that we felt pretty strongly that instead of an implementation over 3 years, that it should be spread over 5. And there's some wiggle room on that because we're already several months into the fiscal year 20, so if we start implementation right now, we still wouldn't be spending the whole $190,000 that's in the budget for implementation. So that's somewhat fluid. Rather, could it be 4 years or 4.5 years, something like that? But we did agree that could be implemented and spread out. That cost could be spread out over 5 years, up to probably a maximum of 5 years. Probably wouldn't be a good idea to go beyond that. So for the November meeting, we need to have a motion for the cabinet level evaluation compensation study. We need to, between now and then, look at the information that we got from SWIC. And I believe that there's a very good possibility that in the November meeting we'll be able to, everyone will agree to go forward with the Gallagher study. I did want to add something on that, on the performance evaluations. That's not something that's going to happen right away. It's going to take, we're talking about a year. I think we can do it. It can be done probably in a year for training and for the implementation of getting that incorporated into our compensation system. So, I don't know if I should ask for. I don't want to field any questions.
Well, I have a question about that. I think we're all in favor of bringing up salaries for the people who are paid below market value. They need to be brought up to that, and I'm hoping that this study accomplishes that. But the question I do have is, in that initial report, there were some administrators that were paid substantially more than state averages. Some maybe 130 or 130 or 30,000 or maybe 100,000 more than the state average. Are those salaries going to be lowered, or are they going to be frozen at that level, or do you have any idea with regard to the Gallagher study how that's going to be handled?
Well, I can't imagine a situation where you would actually lower somebody's salary. But the effect of the gradual implementation over 5 years, I mean, the salaries that are above the maximums will tend to be self-correcting. So
I would
I'm
just
not
add.
too concerned about it.
Sorry, Kevin. I would just add that, when the individuals in those positions, are no longer in those positions, then those will go in line with what Gallagher recommends on the rehire.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, we go on to policy 409, employment of members of the same family or household are in a personal relationship. You report on that?
I think Julie asked to.
Okay, yeah, I asked for this, and I just think with a new attorney that these kind of policies should be reviewed. And so I wanted the public to know that we're currently reviewing this policy and making sure it satisfies, all the recent legalities that have popped up over the last few years. This is dated 2012, so I think it's good with a new attorney, and this is 7 years old, and he's going to review it. And I guess if he has significant changes, we'll have that ready maybe by the November meeting.
And I just wanted to add that since we had the policy put in place, there have not been any exceptions to the policy, so I just want to put that on record.
Okay, so the attorney will be working on that with us. Good. Okay. We're done with that one. Any other comments? If not, we move on to Z, purchases and contracts policy.
I also requested this. So I'm looking for a way to make sure that the long-term relationships that the college has with certain vendors who are outside of the bid process, make sure that we're getting our money's worth from those vendors. I know in my business experience, if you work with somebody for a long time and they know you got money, they'll just get a little bit of inflation in their bill. I'm not sure that's the case here, but so that's why I brought this to light, and it's good because I wanted everybody to see this policy. And after discussing with the attorney, what we're going to do is just focus on a few of the large contracts that the college has and start with that rather than revising and bidding everything, which is, I understand will be difficult to do. So I'm just going to ask for the administration to give the board a copy of the architect's contract, AAIC, and then the audit contract, which that might change annually, I don't know, but the latest one.
It's on a certain cycle, so. Yeah.
Okay. And then also the Harinko contract. Is that still in force, or is that one over?
Through December.
Due to be renewed December, or what do you mean due December?
It's the contract's currently through December.
Through December. Oh, sorry, I didn't hear it. So let's just, if it is okay with you, just provide those to the board.
No problem.
And that's how we'll start with that. So this doesn't require any action at this point.
Now we've come to item 7 for a closed session. Is there a motion to adjourn to a closed session?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
McCain?
Yes.
Wirtz?
Yes.
Hyen?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
We will now ask the members of the public who are attending the meeting to excuse the board as they leave the room to enter into a closed session for consideration of employment status of a specific employee. We anticipate adjourning the closed session and reconvening the open portion of the meeting after the closed session is completed. We'll need a roll call to resume open session.
Tolgetsky?
Here.
Watson?
Here.
McCain?
Here.
Wirtz?
Here.
Hyen?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Rust?
Here.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
So the minutes will show that the closed session began at 9:10 and was attended by Robert Watson, Brenda McCain, Dwight Wirtz, David Hyen, Julie Johnson, Charles Hanfelder, Kevin Russ, and April Tolgetsky. and Dennis Weedman. The minutes will show that the closed session was adjourned at 9:37, and the board has returned to the meeting room, and we now are back in open session at, and what time is it? 9:41. Okay. And so now we'll go to action items, and double A is at the end of the action items, so we will now go to AB, authorize the hiring of an independent auditor to audit the travel expenses of senior administration. Is there a motion to approve the hiring of an auditor?
I make the motion.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to hire an independent auditor to audit the travel expenses of the senior administration for fiscal year 2019. That's on page 504. Any discussion?
What expenses is this going to cost the college?
That remains to be seen. So hopefully not much, but we'll find out and get back to the board.
Before we vote on it?
We'll have to approve it to be engaged, I guess you'd say.
Any further discussion? If not, call for the vote.
Tulgetsky?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Watson?
No.
McCain?
No.
Wertz?
No.
Hyan?
Yes. Motion approved. AC, approval of grant or sponsored contract opportunities, page 505 to 506. Motion to approve. We're waiting on a motion, but I don't know, while it's silent here and everybody's thinking, Dale, you want to inform us as to the opportunities? That really comes under discussion, but while we're thinking, I guess, waiting for a motion.
You want to mention what's on? So basically, we're looking at an NSF proposal. A new proposal would be around $3 million over 3 years, and the principal investigator would be Charlie Blake. That's through the National Great Rivers Research and Education Center, transforming public science programs to the more accessible and underrepresented. So that's
did you say this is going to be at NGREC? Or no?
Yeah, well, it'd be funded through the National Science Foundation, but the work would be through the National Great Rivers Research and Education Center. Gary.
Specific question about that project. Basically, it's an expansion of the citizen science program, which is called Riverwatch, that we've conducted for many years. And this NSF opportunity offers the chance to expand the program and to reach streams and areas of the state that have been inadequately represented in the past. So it's a strengthening grant with the opportunity to build the Riverwatch program externally.
I think
no matching funds. Dr. Blake.
Dr. Blake is here tonight, so you want to say something, Dr. Blake?
So this grant is part of an expansion of the Citizen Science Program, as Gary mentioned. So the Citizen Science Program is a science learning opportunity for adults, maybe who are not enrolled in some sort of degree program, but a way for people to either get interested in a new career or continue their science education later in life. It's open to anyone, regardless of whether you used to be good in science in school or not. It's kind of a way for people to get involved in learning about science in a different creative setting.
So how is it to become more accessible to the underrepresented?
So right now the program is a little bit difficult to afford for our volunteers. We're actually charging our volunteers to attend for training. That's how we've been running the program, so that it doesn't cost the college money. But this would allow us to offer it for free to people to participate.
And you can do this, perform this grant without adding any additional personnel? Is that correct?
Some of that money is for the personnel. That's what the grant money is for.
Okay, what happens at the end of the 3 years?
Those people would just be for the period of the grant. So the grant is a temporary expansion of the program. We would study the effects of that. That's part of what the National Science Foundation would want us to do, is to see how that would impact the program. And then there isn't necessarily an expectation that those staff positions would continue after the term of the grant.
And they're hired with that condition?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made and second to approve the grant-sponsored contract opportunities. Any other questions or comments? Call for the vote.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
McCain? Yes. Hyen?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Next item is 2020 and 2021 college holiday calendar. Is there a motion to approve? Brenda made the motion to approve. We need a second. Second by Bob Watson. Discussion.
Each year, the board is called upon to approve the official college holiday calendar, and so you have those in your board packet as to which holidays we take.
Any other discussion? Call for the vote.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
McCain? Yes. Watson?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
Hyen?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Next item, 2020-2021 academic calendar. Motion to approve.
Sorry. The calendar is subject to ICCB rules, and it says a college will operate on an academic calendar that provides at least 2 academic terms consisting of 15 weeks, each at least 75 days of instruction. So every October, I bring this board item to the board so that we can include it in the college catalog. The calendar changes very little. It changes one day forward, one day backward. So this doesn't present much of a change to you this evening, but I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Need a motion to approve? Bob made the motion to approve. Second?
Second.
Dwight, second. Any other discussion? Call for the vote.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
Hyen?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
McCain?
Student academic fees.
This again is an October board item, and this is when the program coordinators are asked if they need to increase or decrease student fees. These are lab fees, course fees. What you're seeing tonight, though, is historic, because 20 of the fees that are listed in this board item are decreases. Randy Gallagher, the professor and coordinator of mathematics, working with Pearson, whose My Math Lab provides our students access to an e-text, homework, lots of systems of support online, has decreased 20 of those fees. The other 2 math fees are new courses, so of course I'm asking for fees for the first time. The other standout was occupational therapy assistant. There's a cost for students to participate in a one-day on-campus certification exam preparation course. The cost of the program is $140 per student, so OTA is proposing this evening that that be divided between 2 courses. Any questions?
Motion to approve. Brenda, second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Call for the vote.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
McCain? Yes. Wertz?
Yes.
Pyan?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Next, approval of the Lewis and Clark Facilities Master Plan. Is there a motion to approve? Motion been made to approve. We need a second.
Second.
Okay, now we have discussion or introduction.
Yeah, I would, any questions? I know we brought the ramp document to you before. This is just kind of the next step of that, and really it's to provide you, the board, with that long-range look of where we see our capital project needs being in our current campus facilities. You'll see a lot of end-of-life HVAC systems were included in there, along with those ramp projects that we've discussed previously. So, was there any questions in review of that
Required by
document?
ICCB that we submit this?
Right, and we need to submit that, of course, before our recognition review in November.
I have a question. I noticed that you listed people who had an active part in putting this program together, this either the ramp or this master plan, and my name was on there, and I wasn't asked.
So we list everyone who would have input into these projects, so your votes at meetings in terms of voting for the capital for the project. So we just tried to include everyone who would have any sort of part in any capital renovation project.
Do you include faculty and department heads and stuff in this? They weren't listed on there.
Sure, sure. If you would like your name not to be included in it, we could, of course, do that. We just wanted to recognize our board as playing a role in our long-range facilities master planning.
Okay, but the question I asked, though, do you have instructors and department heads?
Absolutely. A good example of that is our diesel technology program. You've heard Dr. Serwinski talk about that. So, of course, that has involved Chris Reynolds, who is over our automotive technology program, working with architects and working with students to provide input as to what that facility would need to look like for their needs. And a lot of that comes from our program advisory committees that are made up of alumni, students, faculty, high school instructors, and employers working in the field who kind of help us define what our facilities need to do to meet the demands in the workplace.
So this is basically our ramp plan. So, I mean, which was a nice looking document. I thought it was all right. But is this like more for like publication or
right.
handing out to people?
So just to clarify, the ramp document is something we have to update annually, and you'll see those projects in here. This is just our facilities. So the things like roadway improvements, that's not in here. This is just making sure that we are showing ICCB that we know we have long-range planning needs and that we're taking care of the facilities that we have and have that outlined as what's happening currently, what needs to happen in the next year, and just the 5-year plan. And then, of course, this is a living document. So as we update projects and plans, we can update this and bring it back each time and adopt it and resubmit it to ICCB. So.
I noticed there were a lot of matching funds that we had on all of these projects, we had to, the taxpayers would be obligated to pay a certain proportion of each construction project, and just concerned about increasing the debt of Lewis and Clark College with regard to these. If the board decides that they don't want to indebt the taxpayers anymore, can you back out of these things?
So we would bring any project that's on this list, we would have to bring to the board for approval prior to letting bids or completing the project. So this is just the planning document, similar to the ramp document. There would never be any obligation to do that. This is just us trying to identify what those capital project needs will be.
It's like a roadmap, that can be changed.
Is this a requirement of the state of Illinois that
Yes.
you do this?
Right.
Yes.
I see.
Mhm. Every 5 years.
Illinois Community College Board.
Okay.
At least every 5 years, I should say.
Okay.
Right, exactly.
So we've had a motion on that already and a second, and any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
The next item, approval of changes to personnel policies related to, it looks like that's the Gallagher. It doesn't say it, but that must be the action item. Do you want to withdraw that as a motion, or you want to vote on that?
I think we need to vote on that. 2 months ago, we had this meeting, we had this study done. We had identified the problems, we identified the solutions, and we wanted to stop the bleeding of people. And since then, we've just had another list of people leave those departments, and I think we got to take action and not delay this anymore. These people want an answer, and we deserve them to pay them. If they're underpaid, we need to bring their pay up. And I think we need to take that action tonight, and this study we paid for taking place. I think holding these people off and saying, well, we'll get it next month, well, it's been 2 months. It's going to be 9 months, 90 days. It's time to take action. I will make that motion.
The report was that it was an incomplete report, and now it's being completed, and I think Mr. Rust reported that we would implement this in November. But okay, you don't want to withdraw it. Okay, you make a motion to approve this?
Yes, it is.
Second? Brenda seconds. Any other discussion? Call for the vote.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
McCain? Yes. Hyen?
No.
Johnson?
No.
Rust?
No.
Hanfelder?
No.
Watson?
Yes.
Next item, change November board meeting date.
We have to change the date from the 12th to the 7th to allow for enough days between the November meeting and the December meeting, the 30-day period required for levy issues.
And what is that new date?
November 7th.
Motion to change the board meeting date. Bob makes the motion. Is there a second? Brenda made the second. Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Tolgetsky?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
McCain? Yes. Wertz?
Yes.
Hyen?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Last item here is the action on whether to extend President Dale Chapman's employment agreement which expires on June 30th, 2020, and to provide Dr. Chapman with written notice of the board's intention regarding same. Is that appropriate? We're talking about extending it, not renegotiating. That's what the action item says.
She made the motion, so.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Tolgatsky?
Yes.
McCain?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
Hyan?
No.
Johnson?
No.
Rust?
No.
Hanfelder?
No.
Watson?
Yes.
Motion failed. Is there a motion to extend his contract or not extend? Is there a motion to that? Well, I had one here someplace.
Yes, I move that we not approve the extension of President Dale Chapman's employment agreement expiring June 30th, 2020, and to authorize Chairman David Hine to provide Dr. Chapman written notice of the board's intention before October 31st, 2019.
It's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Tolgatsky?
Let's explain it here again. It's if you vote the motion. Read the motion one more time.
Motion to not approve.
To not approve.
Etc.
Okay. Okay. Call for the vote.
Tolgatsky?
No.
Rust?
Yes.
Hanfelder?
Yes.
Watson?
No.
McCain?
No.
Wertz?
No.
Hyan?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, that concludes all the business here, so this meeting stands adjourned.
Chairman, I'd like to just make a comment. I would like to thank all the supporters that came out to see Dr. Chapman. I'd like to thank the 650 members of the Growth Association, the Lewis and Clark Foundation Board, all the business people that took ads out in the newspapers. And the only thing I'm going to say is this board was always a nonpartisan board. We left our politics at the door. And we didn't care, and nor do we ask what somebody else's politics are. And my own problem is that this new administration has brought politics into this board, and you can thank the Madison County Republican Party who supported them, bought ads, social media, and my thought is just remember the next election comes around.